Have you ever felt a relationship slowly draining the life out of you? It could be anyone, a longtime friend, a sibling, even a parent. We grow up believing that family is forever and true friends stick by us no matter what. But what happens when those very relationships start doing more harm than good? Today, we're going to talk about something difficult yet crucial, knowing when to walk away. And yes, sometimes that means walking away from people you've known your whole life. It's a hard truth, but as the Stoic philosophers remind us, your peace of mind and character are worth protecting. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, they all taught the importance of surrounding ourselves with virtue and cutting ties with toxicity. This isn't about being cold or unloving. It's about self-respect and growth. In a moment, we'll explore 10 clear signs that you should consider ending a relationship, even if it's with a family member or a dear friend. Each sign comes with a story many of us can relate to and a bit of timeless wisdom from the Stoics to help guide you. Stay with me, because if any of these signs sound familiar, it might just affirm what your heart has been trying to tell you. Remember, it takes courage to let go, but sometimes letting go is the kindest thing you can do for yourself. Manipulation and control. Let's start with one of the clearest red flags, manipulation. Imagine this scenario. Every time you make a decision for yourself, this person in your life finds a way to twist it. If you choose to spend a weekend on your own, they guilt trip you by saying, "I guess I'm not important enough." If you disagree with them, they sulk with stony silence, or lash out until you concede. This is control masquerading as love or friendship, and it's toxic. Manipulative people often use tactics like the silent treatment, subtle threats, or constant guilt to keep you under their thumb. You start second-guessing yourself, walking on eggshells, trying to keep them happy so there's no outburst. Over time, you may feel like a puppet dancing to someone else's strings. The Stoics were big on personal agency. Epictetus taught that your mind and will are your own, and no one can truly control you unless you surrender that control. If someone in your life is pulling your strings, it's a sign that the relationship is unhealthy. You should never have to bend your entire being to please someone else or to avoid their punishment. Real love and genuine friendship do not require you to sacrifice your autonomy. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor philosopher, dealt with manipulators in court and life, and he reminded himself not to be complicit in the drama of others. In plain terms, that means refusing to play along when someone tries to control your narrative. You have every right to step away from a relationship that feels like a cage. It doesn't matter if the person is a close friend or even your own mother or father. Control is not love. Healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect for each other's free will. So if you're feeling trapped or constantly coerced by someone's behavior, take it seriously. It might be time to loosen those bonds or break free entirely. Ending a relationship with a manipulator can be tough. They will likely try every trick in the book to keep you. But remember what Epictetus said. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. A manipulative, controlling person does the opposite. They bring out your anxiety, your insecurity, your fear. You deserve better than that. You deserve to reclaim your freedom and peace. Disrespect and boundary violations. Next, consider how you're being treated on a basic human level. Respect is the foundation of any healthy relationship. Do you feel respected by this person? Or do they constantly step over the lines you draw? Picture a friend who constantly makes snide comments about your choices, your career, your other friends, maybe your beliefs. Or a relative who feels entitled to invade your privacy, rummaging through your personal items, demanding to know every detail of your life, and dismissing your right to say no. Perhaps you've told your cousin that certain topics, like your love life or your finances, are off limits because they make you uncomfortable, yet they persist in grilling you whenever they get a chance. These are clear boundary violations, and they signal a lack of respect. Seneca, one of Rome's great Stoic thinkers, wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." Now, someone who disrespects you continually is not making you better. In fact, they often make you feel worse about yourself. The Stoics believed in treating others with dignity and expected the same in return. If a person treats you like your feelings or needs don't matter, that's a serious problem. No title or blood relation justifies disrespect. A father who belittles you or a sister who constantly insults you under the guise of "I'm just being honest" is still crossing lines. You might try to explain your hurt to them. A Stoic would certainly encourage honest communication. But what if they shrug it off and do it again and again? Then you're facing a harsh truth. This person does not truly value you or your boundaries. Constant disrespect erodes your self-esteem over time. You may start to believe the cruel things they imply, that you're not smart enough, not good enough, or that you don't deserve basic courtesy. But you do deserve respect. And sometimes the only way to demand it is by walking away from those who refuse to give it. Think of it like this. If someone keeps tracking mud into your home after you've politely asked them to take off their shoes, and they laugh and say, "Your request is stupid, I'll do what I want," wouldn't you eventually stop inviting them over? It's the same with personal boundaries. You have every right to protect your personal space, emotionally and physically. Marcus Aurelius advised compassion for others' flaws, but he never said to allow yourself to be a doormat. In fact, self-respect is a virtue too. So if a friend or family member cannot respect you, your choices, your privacy, your no, then respect yourself enough to consider distancing or ending that relationship. It might hurt, but in the long run you are preserving your dignity and mental well-being. True friends and loving family members adjust when you say, "This hurts me." Those who don't, who continue to offend and overstep, are telling you through their actions that your feelings are secondary to their whims. That's not love. As hard as it is, you may need to love such people from afar, or not at all. Chronic negativity and emotional drain. Do you have someone in your life who is relentlessly negative? The kind of person who finds the bad in every situation, who constantly complains, criticizes, or just radiates doom and gloom. Spending time with a person like that can feel like carrying a backpack full of rocks uphill, utterly exhausting. You might meet them in a good mood, but after an hour of listening to their rants and pessimism, you feel deflated, maybe even depressed. It's one thing to support a friend through a hard time. Stoicism encourages us to be understanding and empathetic, but it's another thing entirely when negativity is this person's default setting. Perhaps you share some exciting news, like you got a promotion, or you're starting a new project you're passionate about, and their response is to point out potential failures, or just mutter something cynical like, "It probably won't last." Or imagine calling up a family member to check on them, and they spend the entire call dumping their anger and bitterness about everything, from the government, to their neighbors, to the weather, on you without once asking how you are doing. After such interactions, you feel like your energy has been zapped. You dread the next time because you know it will be more of the same. Over time, exposure to constant negativity can start to darken your own outlook. The Stoic philosopher Seneca warned that attitudes are contagious. If you live with a lame man, you will learn to limp. In other words, the company you keep can influence your mindset. Marcus Aurelius, too, in his Meditations, advised himself to be wary of adopting the vices of those around him. If you're constantly around someone who only sees the worst, you may start mirroring that despair. Even if you don't, their negative energy can block out your joy. Life is challenging enough. Having a companion who always pulls you into the muck of despair makes it so much harder. Now, of course, we all have bad days. A true friend sticks around when someone they care about is going through a rough patch. But a pattern of chronic negativity, where it's not a phase but the person's personality, is a red flag, especially if they dismiss or belittle your attempts to stay positive. For example, you try to inject some optimism by saying, I know things have been tough, but there's still a lot to be grateful for. And they snap back. Don't be naive. That's not just negativity. That's negativity that won't allow positivity to exist. Epictetus would say that such a person is poisoning your mind. And as a Stoic in training, you have a duty to guard your mind and maintain your inner tranquility. If someone relentlessly disrupts your peace and leaves you emotionally drained after each encounter, consider that a sign. You might need to limit contact, or in extreme cases, cut ties. It's not that you don't care about them. You probably do, and that's why you've endured the storms of their attitude for so long. But caring about someone does not mean destroying yourself. It's okay to step back from the friend who calls just to offload negativity and never listens. It's okay to take longer breaks from that pessimistic family member who never has a kind word. Protect your spirit. When you distance yourself, you may notice something amazing. The sun starts to shine in your life again. The weight lifts. That's a pretty good sign you made the right choice. Never-ending drama and conflict. Some relationships feel like a roller coaster that you never actually agreed to ride. One week everything's fine. The next week there's a blow-up over something trivial. You're constantly caught in a whirlwind of drama, and you can't remember the last time being with this person felt calm or steady. Does this sound familiar? Maybe you have a friend who thrives on conflict. If things are too peaceful, they find a way to stir the pot. They gossip, they start arguments, or they create crises out of thin air. Or perhaps a sibling who is always feuding with someone in the family, dragging you into the quarrel whether you want it or not. It's exhausting, and frankly, it's unhealthy. Stoicism teaches us to value tranquility and avoid needless conflict. Marcus Aurelius prized inner calm and reason. He tried not to let the noise of petty disputes disturb his clarity. Think about how drama eats up your time, your energy, even your sense of safety. If every interaction with someone could explode into a fight or a tearful saga, you're basically bracing yourself each time you see them. That's not the hallmark of a healthy bond. It's a sign of a toxic cycle. You might feel like you have to be the peacemaker, constantly diffusing bombs this person sets off. But here's the thing. You are not responsible for managing another adult's emotions or crises, especially when they manufacture those crises themselves. Epictetus reminds us that we control our own actions and responses, not the actions of others. If someone in your life chooses chaos over peace, you can't force them to be calm. What you can do is step out of the storm. Consider a relationship where your phone buzzes at midnight with yet another urgent text from that friend. You won't believe what happened. I'm so upset. And you already know tomorrow you'll spend hours hearing the play-by-play of the latest drama. They rarely ask how you are. The friendship is basically you being an on-call emotional firefighter for them. Or a romantic partner who seems to instigate jealousy or arguments regularly, turning your home into a battleground of accusations and tears. If you've addressed it and nothing changes, the hard truth is it likely won't change. Some people are addicted to drama like a drug. Peace feels boring to them. But you do not have to be an actor in their soap opera. Life will throw us enough real conflicts and challenges. Illness, job stresses, worldly problems, without a friend or partner generating extra, unnecessary ones. Seneca would advise stepping away for the sake of your own sanity. Fire tests gold, he said. Suffering tests brave men. But he didn't mean you should stay in a fire that someone keeps deliberately stoking. If a relationship is a perpetual flame of anger, tears, and chaos with no resolution in sight, it might be time to douse that flame by exiting the situation. Sometimes quitting a war is the only way to win it. When you remove yourself, you'll likely find your stress levels plummet. You might even discover that others were sensing the same thing about that person's drama. Often people stuck in toxic cycles keep everyone around them on edge. By choosing to get off the ride, you set a boundary that says, my peace matters. And it does. It really, really does. Dishonesty and betrayals. Trust is one of the most precious elements of any relationship. It takes time to build and can be shattered in an instant. Ask yourself, has this person broken your trust repeatedly? Maybe they lie, small lies, big lies, doesn't matter. Each time you caught them in one, it felt like a punch to the gut. Or perhaps they betrayed you in other ways, talked behind your back, shared your secrets, failed to defend you when someone else wronged you. One betrayal might be forgiven, especially if they sincerely apologize and make amends. But patterns of deceit are different. Let's say you had a best friend whom you confided in about something very personal, and later you find out half your social circle knows about it. Your friend sheepishly says, "I only told one person. I didn't think they'd blab." That one person tells one more, and so on. It's a betrayal. You might give them another chance after they apologize. But what if it happens again with something else? Or consider a family member who promises to do something important, like help you with a project or show up at a milestone event, and they flake out every time, often with a flimsy excuse that you suspect isn't even true. They might say, "Oh, I'm sorry I missed your graduation, I wasn't feeling well." But later you see photos of them partying that night. These repeated letdowns chip away at your trust until you're left with anxiety and bitterness. Stoicism holds honesty as a core value. Seneca wrote about the importance of faithfulness in friendship and how deceit is like poison to human connections. Marcus Aurelius urged himself to be straightforward and never underhanded. In other words, to be someone others could trust. If the person in question is consistently underhanded with you, they're violating a fundamental pillar of your relationship. Epictetus might ask, how can you have peace of mind if you cannot trust the word or actions of someone close to you? The answer is, you really can't. A relationship without trust is like a vase with cracks. You can try to fill it with love and good times, but eventually everything leaks out. Each lie, each betrayal, is another crack. And you end up spending more time worrying, checking, doubting, essentially trying to patch that vase, than actually enjoying the relationship. It's heartbreaking when someone we care for deceives us. You might try to justify it. They didn't mean to hurt me, they just have a problem. You might confront them and get apologies, maybe even tears, but then the behavior repeats. At a certain point, you have to step back and acknowledge the pattern. Some people lie as a habit. Some can't keep a secret to save their life. Some will throw even their loved ones under the bus to save themselves or to gain some advantage. You cannot build a stable, healthy relationship on such shaky ground, and you shouldn't have to constantly play detective or guard around someone who is supposed to be in your inner circle. It's perfectly reasonable and often necessary to end relationships that are rife with dishonesty. This could mean distancing from that unreliable friend, cutting ties with a two-faced relative, or ending a romantic relationship with a partner who has cheated or lied one too many times. Yes, it's painful. You might feel anger, sadness, a sense of loss. But after that passes, there's often a sense of relief too. The constant tension of being lied to or betrayed finally fades when you're no longer emotionally invested in the liar. Trust yourself enough to know when enough is enough. As the saying goes, and it aligns with Stoic wisdom, honesty is the highest form of love. If they can't give you honesty, then perhaps they don't truly love or respect you, and you owe it to yourself to find people who do. Being used. One-sided relationships. This one is sneaky because it often hides under what looks like kindness or loyalty on your part. Think about your relationship and ask, is it one-sided? Are you always the giver and they are always the taker? Healthy relationships have some ebb and flow. Sometimes one person needs more support, other times it's the opposite. But here we're talking about a consistent imbalance. For instance, you're always the one who reaches out, always the one doing favors, always the one offering a listening ear. And this person not only rarely reciprocates, but they flat out expect your generosity as if it's owed to them. Maybe you have a friend who calls you only when they need something. Help moving furniture, a loan of money, a ride to the airport. You oblige because you care, yet when you need a hand, they're conveniently busy or they vanish. Or you have a sibling who relies on you to bail them out of trouble time and again. You've lent them money that was never paid back. You've taken them into your home when they were down and out. You've defended them to others. But this sibling never shows up for you in any meaningful way. You might justify it by thinking, well, he's family, I'm supposed to help. Or, she's going through a lot, that's why she can't be there for me. Compassion is admirable. The Stoics encourage helping others, but not at the expense of being exploited. The ancient philosophers emphasized reciprocity in friendship. Seneca reminded us that true friendship is a mutual exchange of support and goodwill. If it's consistently one way, it ceases to be friendship and slides into exploitation. One painful example could be a relationship where you invest a lot of time and energy into helping someone achieve their goals. Maybe you're always hyping them up, helping them practice for interviews, or comforting them after their failures. But when you share your dreams or struggles, they pay little attention, or worse, dismiss them. Over time, you begin to feel like a tool rather than a friend, a means to an end for them. Epictetus would ask, is this what a friend or loved one should be? A Stoic approach to relationships is all about valuing each other's humanity and growth. If the other person only values you for what you can do for them, they are not valuing you. You may also notice that if you stop giving or slow down the favors, the relationship starts to crumble. They get angry or they disappear, looking for someone else to supply their needs. That's a glaring sign you were being used all along. Ending a relationship like this can be tricky, because users often protest when their supply is cut off. They might accuse you of being selfish when you finally put yourself first. They might try to guilt you. After all I've done for you, which is ironic because usually they haven't done much, but they'll exaggerate the little they did. Stand firm. You are not a bad person for wanting a balanced relationship. One of the hard lessons in life is that not everyone who smiles at you is a true friend, and not every family member truly has your best interest at heart. Some folks, whether out of desperation or selfishness or ignorance, will use those closest to them. It's okay to withdraw your support from someone who only takes and never gives. In fact, doing so is an act of self-respect. Think of it this way: your energy, time, and care are precious resources, a kind of inner wealth. Would a wise person continually invest in a venture that only drains money and never yields any return? Stoicism teaches wisdom and prudence, so apply that to your emotional investments too. A good friend of mine once realized, I'm treating this person like royalty while they treat me like an afterthought. That realization gave her the courage to step back. It hurt at first. She worried, who will they go to if not me? But eventually, she saw that it wasn't her job to save them every time, especially when they wouldn't even say thanks. After ending that one-sided friendship, she felt liberated. Suddenly she had more time and energy for herself and the people who actually cared about her. You deserve that freedom and balance too. So if you feel consistently used, consider it the world's gentlest alarm bell telling you it's time to wake up and make a change. Abusive behavior. This should go without saying, but sometimes when you're in the thick of a bad situation, it's hard to see just how bad it's gotten. Abuse can be physical, emotional, verbal, or even financial. It can come from a partner, a parent, a friend, anyone. And it is never okay. Yet many of us tolerate forms of abuse far longer than we should, often because we love the abuser or we feel trapped by circumstances. If you ever find yourself thinking, well, they only shove me when they're really mad, or they only call me horrible names when I upset them, but otherwise they're nice, that is a huge red flag. No amount of good times can justify episodes of abuse. Imagine you're in a relationship where your partner's temper is like a landmine. One wrong move, and boom, they explode. Maybe it's screaming and name-calling. They degrade you, call you worthless or stupid. Maybe it's even scarier, throwing things, breaking things, pushing, hitting, or threats. After the storm, they might apologize, or they might gaslight you into thinking it was your fault. See what you made me do? If this is happening, you likely feel fear and confusion on a regular basis. Or consider emotional abuse, a friend who constantly manipulates you with put-downs, couched as jokes. "Hey, I'm just joking, you're so sensitive," after saying something truly hurtful. Or a relative who plays mind games to keep you under their control. They might isolate you from others, or make you doubt your own sanity with constant lies and contradictions. The Stoic philosophers spoke often of the importance of personal dignity and courage. It takes courage to stand up to an abuser, especially one you care about. But remember this, enduring abuse is not a virtue. Marcus Aurelius wrote about enduring hardships that fate throws at us. But those are things outside our control. If someone is choosing to harm you, Stoicism does not say just endure it. In fact, enduring injustice meekly can even be seen as enabling the wrongdoer to continue in vice. The Stoic approach would be to either try to stop the injustice or remove yourself from it if possible. Seneca said, "Fire tests gold and adversity tests brave men." But he wasn't suggesting you stay in the fire of abuse indefinitely. If anything, a Stoic might argue that by leaving an abusive relationship, you not only protect yourself, but you refuse to allow the abuser to commit further wrongdoing, at least toward you. Ending the relationship becomes an act of both self-preservation and moral stand. Of course, it's easier said than done. Abusers often have a way of hooking into your psyche. One day they're cruel, next day they're crying and saying they can't live without you. This roller coaster creates a trauma bond that is tough to break, but recognizing the pattern is the first step. Confide in someone you trust about what's happening. Sometimes an outside perspective reinforces that no, you're not overreacting. It really is that bad. There are also professionals and support groups who can help you make an exit plan if the situation is dangerous or complicated. Epictetus, who was born a slave, experienced physical abuse. His master once broke his leg. He later taught that while our bodies can be constrained or hurt by others, our spirit remains free, and we must never lose our integrity or accept a life beneath our dignity. Living in abuse is a life beneath your dignity. It chips away at your spirit. No matter how much you think you love the person, ask yourself, is this how someone who loves me would treat me? Love and abuse cannot coexist. Real love builds. It doesn't destroy. If you need permission to leave an abusive family member or partner, consider this your permission slip. Your safety and well-being are non-negotiable. It might be extremely hard. It might require help and careful planning. But getting away from abuse is one of the bravest and most important decisions you can ever make. And on the other side of that difficult choice lies freedom, the kind of freedom Epictetus cherished. The freedom to live without fear under your own roof, in your own skin. You deserve nothing less. Envy and undermining. Have you ever had a friend or relative who just couldn't be happy for you? You share a triumph. Maybe you got into your dream college, or you're celebrating a work promotion, or even something simple like you're excited about a new relationship. And instead of congratulating you sincerely, this person responds with coldness, or a fake half smile, or a subtle put down. Must be nice to have everything handed to you, they might mutter. Or they change the subject to themselves, downplaying your news. Over time, you realize this person might actually be jealous of you. Envy is a toxic emotion that can corrode relationships from the inside. In some cases, an envious person might even sabotage you. Perhaps that colleague you thought was your friend secretly badmouths you to the boss because they're bitter about your success. Or a sibling constantly tells you that your achievements aren't a big deal. Anyone could have done that, it's nothing special, because they feel insecure about their own path. This kind of behavior is a sign that the relationship is not built on genuine goodwill. A true friend, a loving family member, celebrates your victories as if they were their own. They don't see your success as their loss. Stoic philosophy teaches us to rejoice in the good that happens to others, and not to measure life in zero-sum terms. Marcus Aurelius, in his wisdom, tried to remind himself not to be caught up in petty comparisons, to be content with his own journey. But when someone else is envious of you, you can't fix that for them. That's their internal issue to overcome, or not. What you will notice is how their envy affects you. You might start to shrink yourself around them, downplay your happiness, or even feel guilty for doing well. For example, imagine you got a long-awaited promotion. You're thrilled, but you hesitate to tell your close friend because you know it'll trigger an awkward reaction. When you finally share the news, they say something like, "Oh, so you'll be one of those bosses now, huh? Don't let it go to your head." You walk away feeling deflated instead of excited. That's terribly sad, isn't it? The people who care about us are supposed to amplify our joy, not squash it. If someone consistently undermines your confidence or your joy out of their own envy, that relationship is hurting you. Seneca wrote about the wise man being immune to envy because he takes pleasure in others' good fortunes. But the flip side is, if you're dealing with someone who isn't wise in that way, you will be the target of their envy precisely when you most deserve support. Over time, an envious friend can erode your accomplishments. You start to question, maybe I didn't deserve it. Maybe I should tone it down. Don't let that happen. You earned your moments in the sun. No one has the right to cast shadows over them. Now, some envious people can change if they become aware of it and truly care to improve. Perhaps a heart-to-heart conversation could make them realize how their actions make you feel. But many times, envy is deeply rooted in insecurity and not easily dislodged. The more you shine, the more their discomfort grows. Are you supposed to dim your light for them? The Stoics would say absolutely not. You must live in accordance with virtue and honesty, and that includes honestly celebrating what's good in life. If someone can't join you in that, they may start resenting not just your success, but you, yourself. In worst cases, they might actively sabotage you, giving bad advice, secretly hoping you fail. That's poisonous. It might be necessary to create distance or end that relationship for your own protection. Life is too short to surround yourself with people who resent your happiness. Find those who cheer when you win and support you when you lose, as you do for them. Those are the keepers. If a certain friend or relative cannot be happy for you no matter what, recognize that as their problem, but one that you don't have to constantly suffer from. You can love them from a distance or keep interactions minimal. By doing so, you safeguard your positive moments from their negative spin. And who knows, sometimes stepping back sends a message that their behavior is unacceptable. Maybe it will prompt them to reflect and change. But even if it doesn't, you'll be protecting your right to joy, which is so important on this journey of life. Compromised values. This sign is a bit more subtle but incredibly important. We all have our own moral compass, our sense of right and wrong, of what we stand for. A healthy relationship is one where, even if two people have differences, they respect each other's core values, or even better, share many of them. But have you noticed that being around a certain person pushes you to compromise your values? Perhaps peer pressure isn't just a high school phenomenon. It can happen among adults too. For example, you pride yourself on honesty, but your friend always encourages you to lie or cheat a little to get ahead, saying, "Everybody does it, don't be a sucker." Or maybe you value kindness, but when you're with this group of friends, the hangout often turns into a gossip and trash talk session about others, and you find yourself joining in just to fit in, then feeling guilty about it later. Or imagine you're very family-oriented, and you don't like bad-mouthing your spouse or partner in public, but your co-workers at the lunch table, including a so-called work friend, egg you on to share personal complaints, violating the respect you want to maintain. These are instances of someone influencing you to act against your own principles. Epictetus taught that we must guard our character above all. He said essentially, know what you can and can't compromise on. If a relationship requires you to leave your morals at the door, it's not a healthy relationship. Sometimes it's more direct. Perhaps a relative asks you to do something plainly unethical, like help them cover up a lie, or engage in some sketchy business deal. And when you resist, they call you disloyal or say, "Come on, we're family, we stick together." This is a tough spot. Your value, honesty, lawfulness, versus loyalty to family. A Stoic would remind you that virtue comes first. Stoicism places wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance as cardinal virtues. Loyalty is admirable, but not when it means abetting wrongdoing. Seneca and Marcus Aurelius both believed that doing what is right might sometimes cost you relationships, but that is a cost worth paying to keep your soul intact. On a more emotional level, maybe you value positivity and encouragement, but your friend group's humor is built on put-downs and ridicule. You find yourself laughing at cruel jokes or staying silent when one of them bullies someone, just to not be ostracized. Afterward, you feel disgusted with yourself for going along. That's a sign too. The internal conflict you experience is your conscience knocking, saying this isn't right. When a relationship consistently forces you into such ethical dilemmas or makes you someone you're not proud of, you have to ask, is maintaining this bond worth losing myself? Often we cling to these relationships out of fear of loneliness, fear of judgment, or because of history. We've been friends since childhood, or, but he's my brother. It can be incredibly painful to imagine cutting ties, or even just standing up and saying no to these expectations. But consider the alternative. Years down the line, you hardly recognize yourself in the mirror because you've bent your character to accommodate someone else's low standards. The Stoics were big on self-examination. They would have us reflect, am I a better person with this individual in my life, or worse? If the answer is consistently worse, that's a glaring sign the relationship may need to end. It might not even be dramatic or due to a big blowout. Sometimes it's a quiet recognition that I need to step away to stay true to who I am. And that's okay. You might even explain it to the other person if you think they'd understand, maybe giving them a chance to respect your boundaries and values. But if they scoff or double down on trying to sway you into things you feel are wrong, you have your answer. Walking away from someone who was a partner in crime, literally or figuratively, can be lonely at first, but it's powerfully freeing. You stand taller because you're aligned with your principles again. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." Keep that close to your heart. No relationship that demands you sacrifice your self-respect or ethical convictions is a healthy one. True friends, true family will either share your values or at least respect them. If they don't, you have every right to pivot out of that relationship toward a life where you can live with integrity. No willingness to change. People can change. The Stoics certainly believed in the power of self-improvement, but a key ingredient for change is willingness. When a relationship hits repeated problems, ideally both parties try to fix it. Now, think about the person you're concerned about. When issues have come up, do they take accountability, or do they refuse to change at all, expecting you to do all the adapting, all the forgiving, all the hard work? A healthy relationship isn't perfect, but when you voice a concern like, "I feel hurt when you do X," the other person should care enough to listen and try not to do X again. If instead you get denial, deflection, or empty promises with no follow-through, that's a sign that nothing is going to improve. For example, you've told your friend that it bothers you when they cancel plans last minute because you've turned down other invitations to reserve that time. They apologize maybe, but then do it the very next week, and again the next month. Clearly, keeping their word is not a priority for them, and your feelings aren't either. Or you might have confronted a sibling about speaking to you in a derogatory way. They got defensive. "You're too sensitive. I talk like this to everyone." No apology, no attempt to understand your perspective. Next time they hurl the same insults. Or perhaps you and your partner have had the same argument 50 times. You've cried, you've pleaded for a specific change, and they momentarily agree, but revert back to the hurtful behavior within days. It can feel like running into a brick wall. Stoicism is very much about focusing on what's in our control. Another person's willingness to change is firmly outside your control. You can encourage, request, and even set an example by changing your own habits. But you cannot make someone change if they don't want to. Marcus Aurelius had to accept that he couldn't simply philosophize his troublesome son Commodus into being a good person, an extreme example, but it shows that even the wisest among us hit this truth. Each individual is in charge of their own development. If you're staying in a relationship hoping they will change someday, you might be clinging to a fantasy. It's important to see what is, not what you wish would be. Epictetus would advise measuring people by their actions, not their words or our hopes. What do the actions show? If over a substantial period of time this person has shown no growth, no effort to adjust their harmful behavior, then what reason is there to expect a miracle transformation later? We often fear leaving because what if they do change one day and I missed it? But ask yourself, how long have you waited already? How many chances have you given? Don't you deserve to be happy now, not just in some hypothetical future where they've maybe sorted themselves out? There's also the possibility that your leaving might actually be the wake-up call they need. Sometimes people don't confront their issues until the consequences smack them in the face, like losing a friend or partner. But you can't bank on that either. You have to be okay with the idea that they may never change, and you chose to save yourself instead of going down with the ship. That's not selfish, it's wise. Picture this. You're holding on to someone dangling off a cliff. You've been pulling and pulling, trying to save them, but they're not even attempting to climb or help themselves. In fact, they might even be pulling you down. At some point, no matter how loving you are, you might have to let go to avoid both of you plunging. It's a tragic choice, but the alternative is self-destruction. If a relationship has brought you to that point metaphorically, where your well-being is deteriorating because the other person refuses to grow or address blatant issues, you have to consider stepping away. Ending a relationship with someone who won't change doesn't mean you hate them. You might actually love them deeply. But sometimes love isn't enough to fix someone, especially someone who doesn't see a problem. Love also doesn't mean tolerating endless pain. You can love someone and still leave them, particularly if staying means losing yourself or your happiness. The Stoics would remind us that our primary duty is to our own moral and mental well-being. You are not abandoning them. You are choosing not to abandon yourself. And who knows, in your absence, they might finally face their own demons. Or they might not. Either way, you've made the courageous choice to not let someone's stagnation hold back your life. It's often said that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. If one of your closest people is stuck in a negative pattern and refuses to work on it, that inevitably drags your average down. Surround yourself instead with those committed to mutual growth. You'll be amazed at how much brighter life looks when you're not chained to someone else's refusal to move forward. Now, having gone through these 10 signs, you might be feeling a bit heavy-hearted. It's not easy to confront the possibility that a friend or family member is toxic for you. You might be thinking of specific names, specific memories, and wrestling with the implications. Let me acknowledge something. Ending a relationship is rarely simple or painless. There can be guilt, grief, fallout with other family members or mutual friends, and of course, loneliness. Stoicism doesn't teach us to be emotionless robots. It's okay to feel sad or even cry when you have to say goodbye to someone who once meant the world to you. But Stoicism does teach us to prioritize truth and virtue. The truth here is that you deserve relationships that nourish you, inspire you, and bring out your best. Or at the very least, relationships that do not chronically harm you. And the virtue is having the courage and self-respect and to enforce that truth in your life. Marcus Aurelius gently advised himself, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. In context for us, that could mean, don't argue with yourself about what a good relationship should be. If you know a relationship isn't good, then do the right thing and step away. Being good in this sense includes being good to yourself. Life will place many people on your path, each with their own lessons. Some lessons are warm and lovely, others are hard and heartbreaking. Not everyone who starts with you will finish with you, and that's okay. You are allowed to let go of relationships that have run their course or revealed themselves to be harmful. It doesn't matter if they share your blood or your history. What matters is how they treat you in the present and how they influence your future. If you've recognized even a few of these signs in someone you know, take time to reflect. You don't have to cut ties overnight if you're not ready. You can create distance, seek counsel, strengthen your support network, and mentally prepare. But keep these signs in your mind as a compass. Each red flag you acknowledge is like a point on a map showing you the way out of a bad place. And as you move toward healthier relationships, you'll also move toward a healthier you. The wonderful thing is that when you clear out toxic relationships, you make room in your life for positive ones. You might deepen connections with people who were always supportive, but you didn't focus on as much. Or you might meet new friends who share your values and uplift you. The world can surprise you with kindness once you have zero tolerance for unkindness in your immediate circle. In closing, remember the wisdom of Epictetus. The key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. We started with that idea, and it's fitting to end with it, because it really distills everything. You have the key in your hand, the power to choose who you keep company with. Use it wisely. Turn it in the lock and open the door to the life you deserve, surrounded by those who bring out the brightest, bravest, most peaceful version of you. That is a life truly worth living, and it is within your reach. Be courageous. Be kind to yourself. And as the Stoics did, hold your head high as you walk your path, even if it means walking away from others to stay true to yourself. You are not alone on that journey. You have your principles and your newfound clarity as steady companions. And I promise, on the other side of the tough decisions, there's a freedom and lightness that you'll wonder how you ever lived without. Take care and choose your company well.